Roggi, how you doing?
I'm great, Anthony. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm so happy to talk with you.
I'm so excited you're having me. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for being willing to share. What great news you called me with the other day.
Yes, that's right.
Share with our audience the news.
I will be going to NYU for grad acting in the fall.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Let's go. And you're repping right now.
I am repping. Shout out to my mom for this great gift right here.
Ah, and she got you a backpack or whatever?
And she got me a backpack that says
Oh,
NYU.
you're just ready to walk the streets of
I'm
New
ready.
York. I love it, man. I love it. I think you're gonna have an amazing 3 years.
Thank you. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, and you definitely should be, you deserve it. There's not many people who get into that school. For those that are listening that don't know, what is it, 16 people
Yeah, 16.
get
16.
selected. And you had a journey, right? You had auditioned previously,
Not for NYU, but in general, yes.
in
Yeah.
general. Okay, great. So let's talk about that. What led you to this year? Like before we get into what you did this year, which was super awesome, what had you done audition wise before that for drama school?
Okay, so 2 years ago, I decided to audition for one school. Just I was like, let me just see what happens. Let's see if this is something that is for me. And I auditioned for Yale. So this was for in the 2022-2023 season. And I made it through one round of callbacks, and then I was it. So I was all right. Well, I was kind of disappointed because, sort of
It's over
put
now.
all my eggs in one basket. But I was all right, you know what? Let me probably do more than one school this next year, you know? And then so the following year I auditioned for four schools and I ended up being a finalist for two of them. So it kind of just got closer and closer, right? And then that was very upsetting just because like I was so close to getting into this one school. Like I was in the final like 20 or whatever. And then it didn't end up working out. And as all actors do, when you have these moments of rejection, you sort of start doubting yourself and questioning yourself. And it's like, why the hell am I still doing this? Like,
Right, right.
what is this about? Um, and then this third time around, I was like, you know what? Like I need to really lock in. I really want to do this. I realize that if I'm gonna do this a third time, it's got to be done right. Yeah, 110%. And that's sort of when I called you guys up. And
Right.
this wasn't the first time I was calling you up because I had done just like smaller lessons with you the first time around when I auditioned for Yale.
Mhm.
But this time I was just all in with you guys. And I think that made all the difference. I auditioned for seven schools, I got two offers, and this was the one that I ended up going with. So
They were we don't need to probably go into the details, but let's just say Raji was in demand from those two schools. There was a little bit of a, can I
that
have
was
Raji? No, I want Raji.
that was a funny situation.
Ultimately, you got to choose wherever is best for you. I think you're gonna have an amazing time. Um, so great. That was a perfect snapshot of how you got to this place. And a lot of people are there, as you probably realize. People give it a shot for whatever reason. Maybe they prepare at the fullest of their capacity, or maybe they don't. They do want to dip their toes, but ultimately, like, if it doesn't go their way, usually if they have that artistic fire like you do, they're like, okay, I got a taste of it. I need to go all in.
Exactly. Mhm.
That was definitely your mentality. I remember when we first talked to you about this year's auditions, you had a different way of speaking. You were just like, look, I'm locked in, I'm 110%. And that's the mentality that's going to result in not just getting into drama school, but, tell me if I'm correct. The reason you got into drama school was because you invested so much in your work.
Oh, 100%. It was all in the preparation for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
You were ready to just explore and discover and like learn. What would you say was your biggest like area of growth as part of this preparation?
Yeah, so it just so happened that like with scheduling and when I was available to do my lessons, a lot of them I was doing with Anula. at the beginning of our sessions, right? So we worked a lot. I think I had like 6 sessions with her, so it was great. And one of the things that I really wanted to work on this year um, was just being open to any possibility with my pieces when I'm in the room. Just being open to take any type of direction. Um, and just because like when you're in rehearsals for these pieces, when you're practicing them, it's like you want to get familiar with them and you sort of start practicing them a certain way. And then sometimes when a direction gets thrown at you, you get all startled and have no idea where to go. So that was sort of my main focus for this year was just to be familiar enough with these pieces so that when it's time to be in the room and I get a direction thrown at me, I know how to adjust on the fly right then and there and have it be authentic. You know,
Right.
so Anila really drilled in with me that, I have to let these particular moments breathe and like live in them and sit in them so that they can affect me. You know what
Mm, yeah.
I mean? And that was, and I think with every session, like I kept on improving on that particular thing. And I think that was my biggest moment of growth.
That's amazing. What
Mhm.
I hear is that you were willing, you trusted yourself or you trusted the space enough to like actually discover something in the moment.
Yeah.
You allowed your, I don't know, your sense of play. And we can talk about some specific moments, but like it seems as if in the coaching sessions as well as in the auditions, you were just willing to play
Hmm.
and see
Yeah.
what happens. Right. And
Yeah.
that's hard to do.
It's so hard. And no, and you don't know it's hard until you're in it. But it's very tough because you just start getting in your head. It's
Yeah.
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's totally normal. But if you prepare that way, then it's not going to feel as foreign when it happens. Because it's
Right.
not like we told you what kind of adjustments they were going to give you.
Yeah. Yeah. Not
You
at
were just
all.
giving you adjustments, and whatever adjustments they gave you, you just played the same way with them as you did with us, right?
Right.
Um, so that's so great. You
Mhm.
were just in the flow.
Yeah.
You stayed present. So great. So proud of you. All right, so let's
Thanks.
talk a little bit of facts.
All right, let's do it.
All right, what monologues did you choose? Can you lay them out for us? Titles, authors?
Yes, of course. I actually had them pulled up because I already forgot. So my Shakespeare was I did Iago from Othello, right? And then my contemporary I did Flacco, Den of Thieves, by Stephen Adly Gurgis.
My favorites.
Those are my two first ones, and then my backup Shakespeare was Aragon from Merchant of Venice, and my backup contemporary was Chester from A Circumference of a Squirrel by John Walsh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
which I
yeah.
never got to do, by the way. I never made it to the fourth piece.
Yeah.
Never.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
Uh
Yeah.
yeah. I don't think yeah. You never know because sometimes they will for sure ask for more and those people still get accepted. It doesn't mean if you're not asked for all four pieces that you have a lower chance or if you are asked for more pieces you
Right.
have not. There's no rhyme or reason, but you do need to prepare at least four pieces.
Mhm.
Did you change your pieces at any point in the process? Because I know you were looking at a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I started looking as soon as I had access to the monologues that you were sharing with us. And I
Yeah,
remember, I
yeah.
know you probably remember just me asking you all these questions about like, what do I do? How do I access this? There was like technical difficulties with my
Oh,
spread
right, right, right.
that I was just anxious to like, I was ready to go. But the uh for some reason, like what I really needed to have in my arsenal was just like a villain piece.
Mm,
I love the way they read and I feel like I do pretty well with them. So that's why Yago, I needed him to be in my lineup.
that's
And
awesome.
actually Yago, I did Yago, not the same monologue, but I did Yago for Yale that first time around. And then last year I did Edmund, so another villainous piece. But I was like, I knew Yago very well, so I needed to have him there. So I knew that had to be part of it. The other ones I was kind of just like reading through the spreadsheet and just like playing around and seeing what sounded good in my voice and what fit well in my body um and sometimes within like the first 2 3 lines it's crazy,
I know.
but
And we try
you
to tell
don't
people
know.
that. And for those that are listening who may not know what he's talking about, when we invite you into our coaching, if we invite you into our coaching, we give you 500 plus monologues on a spreadsheet.
Mhm.
just some monologues that we've collected over the years that we believe are from good writers and that are meaty material. But we
Yeah.
don't know if Raji's going to choose any of those. There's no requirement, but it just helps you kickstart your reading. And we try to encourage everybody, with which Raji definitely did, to just read as many monologues as you possibly can to see what hits you. And like you said, sometimes if you're just in that exploration mode, it'll just be two sentences or three sentences, right? And you'll just be like, "This is the one. This is already hitting me."
And it's like you don't if you don't give yourself that opportunity to at least read through them, then you're never gonna know what works with you, you know? And when
Right.
you know for sure.
And you definitely had some contrasting pieces.
Oh yeah, they were all super different.
So
Super
tell
different.
me, like, what was your philosophy? I know you said you wanted to do Iago. What was your philosophy in kind of choosing the four different ones? What were you trying to show off different parts of you, or were you just trying to be like, whatever hits me?
Well, it was a combination of both. I definitely knew that this so with my previous times auditioning, the difference was that this year I was so sure of all four of these pieces because they, like you said, showed off a different part of me, right? It was they showed off different strengths that I had in my work. But it also showed range. Yeah.
Yep.
And I loved them. I loved all four of them. Last year, I loved like two of them and then kind of loved three and four, you know.
Uh,
And then the year before, same thing. It's like I wasn't 100% sold on the ones that I was choosing,
hmm
you know?
I remember you telling me that. Um, we were just laughing before we pressed record here about the first call that we had last year about, and he was asking me a lot about reading more monologues. Um, he said that he read a lot of plays, but he wanted to just read more monologues. And I thought that was really smart. Just how do you get more monologues in front of you? And clearly, it benefited you because you were really passionate about the ones you chose. Because you
Yeah.
knew you had just an immense amount of material that you were going to commit to reading.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that definitely helped. Just like seeing the monologues. Like and then if I liked it, then I read the play, and continued to explore the character. But yeah, that spreadsheet was made a big difference for sure.
So many people think you have to like read a whole play in order to search for a monologue from that play. Like, okay, I got to read 40 plays. Like, how
Yeah.
overwhelming is that? Like
Definitely not doing that.
that time. You were
Yeah.
working, right? Yeah, a lot of people are preparing for these auditions around a work schedule or a school schedule. Tell us a little bit about your commitments outside of the preparation. What were you negotiating?
Yeah, so I mean, oh my gosh, my why not like while I was preparing for grad school auditions, obviously I work in real estate. So that's like my day job. But then in the afternoons, I also direct at my alma mater at a school that I went to here in Jersey. So I assistant direct the plays and the musicals there. So that's sort of my life from August to February. But I do like real estate year round. And also while training for these for grad school auditions, I was also training for a 5K in November, and I'm currently in training for a marathon,
Oh, I didn't know that.
which I have on Sunday. Yeah. So it's just
Woo!
like I had all my time was used up with grad school stuff and with my running and work.
Tell
So
us,
yeah.
yeah. No, tell us about that. Like, because that can be overwhelming. That can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not prioritizing my monologues or my auditions when I know I should be. Did you
Hmm.
ever experience that where you kind of had to make sure you were recentering on like what your real big goals were? And tell us about kind of did you struggle with that at all? Or you always seem very focused to me, but
Mhm. No, for sure. I mean, like in around like the holidays, that's when I started to realize, okay, like these auditions are next month, you know what I mean? And I also in that busy schedule, I love, going out with my friends and hanging out with them, but like that's something that I had to give up because I had all these other responsibilities and grad school auditions were coming up. So it's definitely tough to manage when you've got all that stuff going on. But at the same time, I think it actually helped me being so busy because
Right.
I was working my mind obviously with grad school stuff. I was working my body with the marathon training, and I felt so centered and focused just because I was working in all these aspects of myself for months, and it helped me maintain my discipline for sure. Like I allotted time every day to do something with the pieces, even if it's just like do it once or twice.
Right.
Um,
That's such a good insight. And a lot of people, immediately go to, oh, there's a lot going on and I'm overwhelmed. When oftentimes people who get into these programs are rigorous, they want rigor. They
yeah,
want to eat, breathe, sleep, acting all day, every day for years. And they're like type A, like I want to be the best I can possibly be.
yeah.
Well, that sometimes you can attack life a little bit more, and sometimes it helps when you've got a couple other things happening.
Hmm.
I know that I also had a couple other things going on that, yeah, like you said, the discipline served my pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to lose sight of the priorities. And as you kind of realized in maybe December, you're like, all right, let's make sure that,
Yeah, yeah.
but you had such a great attitude and you're always plugged in.
Of course. And around December is when I like put away my Xbox. I was like, all right, no more FIFA, nothing. Like now any free time I have is just dedicated to grad school. You
Nice.
know?
Yeah,
Um,
sacrifices for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the actual performance.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You you bring in these pieces in, they are where they are, let's say in October or September. Uh, how did they evolve? Maybe if you have a specific moment that was like a breakthrough moment or a light bulb moment, or just in your overall artistry, how did they change and improve from that to the actual audition?
Um, so I would say that it in the beginning of the process, it was a lot of me um trying to read into the character a little bit too much and not letting myself shine through the pieces because I had to get through through that barrier that I'm sure a lot of us will hit at some point and realize that you're not auditioning for these plays, you're auditioning for grad school,
Yeah,
and find walking that fine line of like how do I serve what this piece is about while showing myself,
right.
and showing these parts of myself. And I really struggled with that. Like I genuinely did. I struggled with that a lot in the beginning.
Because you were
But
you're saying you were trying to like do what you thought the play needed.
yeah, yeah, and I wasn't allowing myself. I wasn't allowing Raji to sort of come out through these monologues, which that's the point. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Um, until and I kind of mentioned this before, like when Anwar was saying, like just sit in those moments. Like let those moments breathe when you have them and experience them, because that's when we see your true humanity, you know?
And so that kind of you're saying that note and that moment that kind of was something you could apply to all your work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, and then also obviously working with Gary, that was awesome. That guy is he really he Shakespeare is not easy for sure. And I love it, but it's definitely not easy. And the way he broke it down for me um helped a lot in me finding my voice in the Shakespearean monologues, and which that's another challenge in itself.
Oh yeah. I remember towards the end of your process seeing your Aragon piece and being like, this guy is fearless,
Yeah.
Love that you were just like, that's Raji.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's also Aragon. Like what's happening here is the unique humor and the unique intelligence of Raji, but within these imaginary circumstances of Aragon. It was just, I was like, man, you're having fun. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. Just finding ways to have fun with it.
yeah.
Because it could be such a tense situation in real life when you're in the room. It's like you worked so hard for all this time and like now it's real. Like, you have to have fun.
Did you feel like the schools, excuse me, I've been talking all day, so if I keep Um, did you feel like the schools provided you with that environment of like, hey, we know this is kind of a big day or whatever, but like just relax? Or did you feel like the schools were more like just business and we'll see what happens? Like, how much did you have to sort of, I guess, mentally prepare that day, or how much was the school kind of helping you with that mindset?
Yeah, well, definitely. All I feel like all the schools, were trying to ease you up a little bit because they understand that there's a lot of tension in the air. You're literally, yes, you're competing with yourself, but like you're competing with other people. Like there are other people around. Like it's obvious. You know what I mean? Like they're all there.
Everybody's
Um,
in consideration, right?
exactly, exactly. So and they all pretty much did the same thing, and let us know that um like this is just because even if you don't end up here, like this is not the end of your journey. Like it might be another school. You might not even have to go to school to be successful. Like you know, that was pretty much in general, that's what all the schools were saying. And it really did help because even though that it's not the end all be all, it's nice to hear it from the people that are going to be making the decision too. You know what I mean? And it
Mhm.
sort of puts you at ease. But you definitely, I mean, at least for me, um, the morning of every one of these auditions, I woke up early. I went on a run because I had to. Part of my training.
Routine.
Yeah, yeah. Had a good breakfast, always just kept my mind clear. And then when I got to the actual school, I would just put my headphones in and listen into like yoga music, something very relaxing, nothing that was gonna alert me in any way, just like very, very relaxing music. And then that's sort of how I got into, a clear space. And I mean, I love in real life, I love talking to people, but in that situation, I kind of just kept to myself because that's what I needed to do. And people are
Right.
different. Um,
Absolutely. I'm glad you said that because it doesn't mean that just because Raji did that, that's what you should do, right? It's what Raji did actually was listen to himself.
yeah.
And he was like, oh, this is what I need today. And that's what you should do. And that's what I did for sure. Because, yeah, you'll only know how you feel on that day. And
Hmm.
each day is a different day. So,
Yeah.
your routine is your routine. And at the same time, you got to be present with whatever you need that day to do your best work. So, I want to hear what happened. I want to hear what happened in the audition. What happened when you walked in? Tell us about the interaction and how it went in your
Sure.
first go at NYU.
Or NYU. Okay, yeah. So yeah, this was my first time auditioning for NYU. I had never applied to it, and the prior times that I tried to audition for grad schools. Um, I walked in. It was great because the train left me right at the school, so I didn't have to really travel much.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
but the in the first round, I went in and they had given me an adjustment, and I think it was for my Yago. Yeah, it was for my Yago piece. And it was a very simple adjustment. All she said was, uh, try not to use your hands at all. Right. I was like, all right, let's see she was like, I want to see what happens. So I literally like put my hands just behind my back and did the entire thing. And of course it shifted something in my focus, and like whatever they wanted to see, it happened. And she was like, okay, thank you. She stopped me like right as in the middle of my piece. She was like, that's what I needed to see. Thank you very much. And then they let me out. So I
That
did
was
my
it.
first, that was it. Then my first two pieces, gave me the adjustment on the Yago, and I walked out. Okay.
You had no idea if you would see them again.
No idea. It was just like, all right, well, that was kind of fast. Whatever. So I go, and like the waiting is the worst part. That's the worst part. Because you see all these people, like people are coming out like crying, like, oh my God, I should have cried. Like and you can't help but like compare yourself with the other applicants, because it's like, oh my God, he was in there for like 10 minutes and I was only in there for 5, right? So that's when you start getting in your head about all these things. And then, I just plug my headphones in, and I try to relax. And then I remember for NYU specifically, just because it was taking a while to get through the entire group and at my hour, I really needed to pee. And I'm like, I can't stand up right now. Otherwise, I'm gonna miss the callback list. I don't even know if I'm gonna be on it. So I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And we waited for a long time, and I still didn't get up to go to the bathroom because I was like, I can't
Oh
miss it.
my
I can't miss
gosh.
it. And then, somebody came out and they read the names out loud, and I happened to be on it, and I was like, damn, that's crazy. That's sick. Ran to the bathroom immediately, and then and then and then
Relief.
came back. Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
excited about that. And then I go into for the callback, and this is where I really got in my head after the fact. So I go in. This time it was for the chair for Carl, and then for Janet. So it was two of like the head honchos over there. So I go in, I do my pieces. I always started with my contemporary and then finished with Yago. Okay. And the Yago felt really, really good. And at the end I finish, and they start asking me questions, just want get to know me a little bit better. And Janet was like, have you ever considered like playing that part? you know, Talking about Yago. And I was like, yeah, I mean, like that's one of my dream roles. If I, I would love to do that one day. She's like, yeah, because like, you really understand the psychology of him, and you don't play it like everybody else does, and just leaning into the evil. You sort of play him like a normal human, which is even more interesting. She was complimenting me on it,
Okay.
and then I was like, oh, thank you very much. That's really nice. And then they were both like, okay, thank you, and then that was it. Didn't give me any
Really, they
advice.
didn't. That was kind of like the interview that they didn't really work much artistically.
At all. They just asked me questions, like random, like these little tiny questions. Said the piece was nice, and then they said thank you, and I left. Like they didn't ask me for a third. They didn't ask me for any adjustment. Nothing.
I want to say that what Raji just said is really important. It's always nice to get a compliment from a drama school faculty, but that's not the point. The point is what she said is what we all should be aspiring to, which is that you really understood the psychology of the character. A lot of the times we pick pieces that maybe we like, but they don't feel suited to us.
Mhm.
And I don't mean like Iago is Raji. I mean that somehow Raji's imagination or whatever, he gets Iago, you know, even if it's not, the way that they would do it in their production. That's again not what we're doing. We're not auditioning for the production. We're just using this monologue as a showcase for who we are as an artist.
Yeah.
Who Raji is as an artist is about his imagination. And your imagination lights up when
Mhm.
you look at that Iago. So when you choose monologues, this is for everybody listening. When you choose monologues, right, try to find something that feels like, oh, I get the psychology of this. I love that you said that. I love that you
Yeah. Yeah. It really has to, set you on fire when you do the pieces.
yes.
Otherwise, you're not doing yourself any favors.
It's going to lead to it feeling like yours,
Yeah.
because that's what she said. Like a lot of other people do Iago, of course, you knew that,
Hmm.
but nobody has that understanding that you do,
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way to do Iago. It's just how authentic is this to me? Am I letting it be
Mhm.
authentic? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. And I walked out obviously bugging out because
I would have been, I would have been like, oh, this is not good.
yeah, exactly. Like, you always hear like, if they give you an adjustment, that's a great sign. And then I didn't get anything, man. That was crazy.
That is
Um,
crazy. But obviously there was callback weekend.
yep.
So
Yep.
tell us about the wait, and then you got invited.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, my audition, I was actually my audition for NYU was at the first day they had auditions in New York because I live in New Jersey, so it's easy for me to get there. Um, and I had to wait about a month, and I actually got the call while I was at the office at work, on my birthday when I turned 26, February 7th. I got the call from Janet saying that I got invited to callback weekend, and I was like,
Wow,
that's a birthday right there.
that is awesome.
That's a great present. And obviously I was over the moon. I was excited. Um, and and then between when they called me and callback weekend, there was a little over a month. So I had some time to, go back into my pieces and just not like really work them, but just because I feel like I had worked them so much up until that point. that I didn't want to like overstress them. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
Uh, but I
If
had
it's
about a month
yeah,
before.
brush up.
Yeah, exactly. But I had already, and we kind of talked about this before, but by the time I got to NYU callback weekend, which was at the beginning of March, I had already received an offer from another school,
Right.
which, and I got that offer in like around the middle of February, like February 20th ish. Um, and I was super excited about that because I love the school. Um, you know, they offered me a full ride and it was just so appealing and I loved it. I loved it.
Attractive. Yeah, it was an appealing offer.
And a very appealing offer. And I emailed John and Anthony. I was like, guys, like I got in, I got in, I got in. And I was like, you know what? Like I'm not even gonna go to the NYU callback weekend because like I'm already I already got into a school that I really wanted to go to. And and then John and Anthony were scrambling. They were like, no, no, you have to go, you have to go, you have to go. And I was like, but why? I'm already going to school. Like I was so hyped. And
Which was good. It was good.
you remember that. It was a
It was
crazy
great.
situation.
Your enthusiasm was palpable, and we were so happy for you because
Yeah,
getting into a great drama school is an awesome
yeah,
achievement. You deserved it, but you were also not done. And we
yeah,
want you to just grab at the first opportunity when there might be multiple offers.
yeah. I looking back on it, I'm like, damn, like imagine I just didn't listen to you guys.
We would have supported you no matter what.
Yeah, I know, I know. But and so I listened and I was all right, you know what? You're right. You're right. If you get invited to NYU callback weekend, you better freaking go. Like you're not gonna just throw that opportunity away. But I wasn't thinking straight because I was just so excited.
Right. Right.
Um,
But the
but
callback weekend. Yeah, go ahead.
yes, so we get to callback weekend, and I think having that offer already on the table put me at ease
Mhm.
because I knew that no matter what happens here, I was gonna go to school no matter what, you know,
Right.
and at a program that I was very, very happy with. And at that point, I didn't really know much about NYU because my only experience was what I had experienced in the very first audition, right? So now I get to NYU and I the moment I get there, I'm like, I love this place. Like this is this is awesome. I got
What was it? What hit you?
well, it was just like I the environment is unique and the first day of call out weekend there was like a breakfast where we got to interact with the faculty and all the other applicants and I got to meet somebody that's like one of the faculty members that actually was one of the decision makers that lives really close to where I am in Jersey, so we got to bond about that. And just everybody that's involved in that program is just so unique and the type of educator that I think resonates with me and my needs. And I felt that the moment that I got to callback weekend. And I kind of
Mhm.
just like started falling in love with the place more and more throughout the days that I was there.
Yeah.
Uh, and and callback weekend was great. Uh, there was I think they invite back about 60 out of all the applicants from the first round. So that's a big chunk cut out right there. And they divide the groups into three groups of 20. And throughout the weekend, all these groups they're doing classes, they're doing obviously their auditions, their interviews. There's a bunch of panels with faculty, with alumni, with current students, and it's really cool. And just like all these things, uh, they give you a taste of the school.
Hmm.
And with everything
Right.
that was being presented to me, I was just loving it more and more and more and more. Um, and
Hard for, folks who
yeah,
then get rejected because like you potentially fall in love with this school, And-
yeah, and I really really loved it. And um, for my group, the first 2 days were just like panels and classes and whatnot. But my big audition day was on the third day. Um, so the third day sort of started with we did a movement class, we did voice class, um, and they also like assessed us they assessed our voice and our movement um and then we got to the audition portion. Okay, so this is where it gets like good for me. So um
I have not heard this, by the way. I'm
yeah, I haven't.
on the edge
I
of my
sort
seat.
of texted you about this, but like I didn't really get to go into detail. So my movement assessment and my vocal assessment just so happened to be right before my audition, so I was like very warm. Thankfully, like it just worked out that way. It doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes you do your audition first, and then you do the assessments. But for whatever reason, the stars aligned, and I was warm. You know what I mean? Just happens. So I go into the room, and I'm just excited to be there. I'm having a great time, and I do my Den of Thieves, followed by the by Yago, just like I've always done. And for the first time in the entire audition process with any school, I get an adjustment on the contemporary. The entire
Ah,
time I've always got it on the Yago, and it was that teacher that is from here in Jersey, that lives here in Jersey near me, that gave me an adjustment, and he was like, um, it was something very simple. It was like, why are you pausing so much at the beginning of your piece? Because I was just doing these pauses, right? Like that's just how I had rehearsed it, and like that's what I thought was right or whatever. Um, he was like, take those out, like don't pause at all. I'm like, okay. By the way, yeah, this Den of Thieves piece is comedic. Keep that in
sure.
mind. Okay,
Absolutely.
it's very funny. So I went into it, and then I paused a little bit. He's like, no, 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 stop. Take out the pauses. And I was like, all right, cool. So so I start going, like not pausing whatsoever. I even start forgetting the lines, but I still don't stop. Like I just make up my own words, like just keep going and going and going and going. And um, so just a quick insert. This Den of Thieves piece is happens at a point in the play where all the people like the four main characters are tied up in the basement, and they basically have to plead for their lives as to like why should I live, right? Or sorry, why shouldn't I die right now?
Right.
So that's the circumstance that I'm in, right? So he gave me the adjustment to not pause. And I just kept on going and going and going and going and going to the point where like I felt like I was pleading so much just because from this adjustment that like I just started bursting into tears, like
Oh
literal tears.
gosh.
And like at the end of the monologue, in my mind, I'm like, oh hey, this was what Anna was talking about. Breathe in this moment, do not cut it short, just live in it. Right. At the end of the monologue, I was like in tears, and like my head was just down like this on the chair because I was sitting in a chair for this. And I just like breathe, breathe. I lived in it for like, and there was, you could hear a pin drop. It was like 20 seconds of just straight silence in the room after
That's incredible.
it. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like in my mind, I'm like, that has never happened before. And it was cool to experience, but it was just shocking, because this is a comedic piece. Why the hell am I crying, But like
Right.
that adjustment just did it for me for some reason. And then I remember clearly Carl, he asked me when I came back up. It was so dramatic. I was like, all right, I'm good now. And then Carl was like, he looks at me, he's like, where did you go? And I understood the question. He asked me like what happened there? And I told him, it was I felt myself come through a little bit because similarly to what Flacco is doing, he's sort of pleading for his life and like why he deserves to be alive. And it was like part of me felt like Roggi was just there pleading to these panelists, like, let me into your school, you know what I mean? But
That
I don't know, but whatever the adjustment was, like it lit a spark in me that has I'd never experienced before with that piece.
right. Right.
And it was genuinely like very, very special to feel and experience.
You
Uh,
will remember that moment for the rest of your life.
yeah,
I will
honestly.
I will say that most of the time, not all the time, but I would say definitely for me, for most of the students we've ever worked with and all of my friends who have gotten into all these top schools, there's usually that type of magical moment. And you never could expect it. There's no possible way to like plan for it or anything. It's just usually because of the amount of preparation you've done and the time and effort and like energy you've put into the whole process leading up to it, if you just are allowing your imagination to be sensitive to the adjustments or whatever and you're willing to play, magic happens somewhere in the process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you were already feeling a lot of good vibes from just the weekend and the school. So it
Yeah.
seemed
Of
as if
course.
you were primed to do some really good artistic work. But I mean, it sounds like you just over delivered artistically in a way that was like jaw dropping.
Yeah, it was a genuine, like that was one of the coolest moments in my acting career. Like it was genuine. Like you really don't plan for anything like that to happen. Like why would I plan to cry in my comedic piece? You know what I mean? Like it makes no sense. But that's the interesting thing about it. That's what's cool about these auditions. It's like it doesn't have to make sense, you
Nope.
know, at all, as long as you're open to any possibility. Like that's what matters, and you can't close any doors off. You know you can't shut yourself off from the things that you're feeling, or else it's not genuine anymore.
Exactly. You're limiting yourself, right? And they're not
Exactly.
looking for artists who are limited. They're looking for artists who have high artistic potential and that are willing to try things, that are
Mhm.
sensitive to their imaginations and willing to just see what happens. Like we've said
Yeah.
it a lot on this conversation, but you're such a perfect example of it. So all right, but you're not in the school yet.
No, not yet.
You leave callback weekend. How are you feeling? You're probably feeling good.
I feel good just because like after that, I had my interview, and the interview is super chill. Like, it's just an opportunity, another opportunity for them to get to know you a little bit better. They ask you more personal stuff. Um, and it was just me and the four people that are in charge of, making that decision. And it was awesome. The interview was great. I just felt, I treat it like as if I know it's an interview for grad school, but like I just treat it as if I was in a table at a bar with my boys. You know what I mean? Like it was just I just let myself be me, and that was it. Um, and then on the last day, they gave us a tour of like the athletic facilities, and I was just like, I really need to get into the school because it
State
was
of the art.
yeah. But
That-
and of course they showed me the coolest part on the last day, right? I was like, yeah, this school was just, it was just awesome. That was just the cherry on top of the cake, honestly. And
yeah.
then, we exchanged Instagrams and phone numbers with some of the people from my group, and that was it. That was on a Tuesday. My last day was on a Tuesday. And then the next day, I come back home from doing my laundry, put my bag down, uh, gonna serve myself a glass of water, and my phone starts ringing. Keep in mind, my phone always rings because I work in real estate. So like I'm always, talking to clients, and clients are calling into the office, and I have the line coming into to my cell. Um, and I get a call from a New York number. I was like, oh God, this is oh no. And I answer, and I knew that like if they were to call us about acceptance, I thought that it was going to be like the next week.
Right.
You know what I mean, I did not imagine it was going to be the
Get
very.
some time to deliberate.
Yeah, exactly. So I was this can't be it, but whatever, I'm answering it. And then it was Carl, and Carl says, hey Raji, like, hope you're well. Do you have a minute? And I'm in my mind, I'm like, Shh, I only have a minute if it's gonna be good news. But out loud I said, yeah, of course. What's up, Carl? And then he lays it down. He says, we really like your work, and we want to offer you a spot uh in the class of 2028.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was here at home, and I just started pacing back and forth. And I'm like, Carl, are you effing with me right now? I'm keeping it censored for the video. But I was like, you gotta be messing with me right now, Carl. And he starts laughing. He's like, no, no, this is real. This is real. Um, you know, and then that was it. Obviously, the first person I call right after is my mom. I let her know, and she was super excited because even for people who don't know much about acting, like they know NYU, you know. And then that night we let
And they
my
know you put in the work, you know,
exactly.
how much this has meant to you.
Yeah. And I called my family in Ecuador because that's where I was born. I'm from Ecuador. Called them and they were all over the moon and I was just so excited to share the news with everybody. And yeah, and that was the moment.
That is
You
awesome,
never
man.
forget it for
No,
sure.
you will never forget that moment. You will never forget the moment in the callback weekend. So much cool times,
Yeah.
but well deserved. Not a surprise. You know what I'm saying? Super great. I can't wait to
Great.
see, what more happens over the next 3 years. You're really going. I mean, you're just at the beginning now, you know?
Yeah. Now we just got the paperwork this week, so now we got to fill all that out, you know, and do all the annoying stuff before we actually get to
Yeah, to
to do the
play.
fun stuff. Yeah, yeah. So,
So good, man. I mean, you've answered all the questions, you and more. We've gotten such good insights. And as everybody knows, this is Raji's story. This is not your story. This is not my story. This is unique to Raji, but there's a lot of parallels and takeaways that, a lot of us experience. So what would you say is kind of something that everyone can keep on the front of their mind as they approach auditions and they work towards these auditions, not knowing what's going to happen, not knowing if they're going to get in anywhere, but like what can they stay focused on?
I think you have to just really be prepared and focus on the work. You know, like those magic moments don't happen unless you are 110% prepared on your pieces. They really don't. Like you have to know them inside and out, be open to any possibility, and more than anything, just stay positive. Manifesting really works, and I really leaned into that this year. You know, manifest that things are gonna work out the way you want them to, and even if they don't, life goes on, and you will continue to become better no matter what. You
Yeah.
know, um, but it's just keeping a positive attitude throughout all of it. I think that really helps. You know.
Yeah. Then it just helps in so many ways, like your willingness. You were, you know, people who sometimes get a little down on themselves or not feeling it, ultimately that can water you down like in your willingness.
Yeah. I mean, and I felt that. I felt that last year for sure. I wasn't even going to do this again. You know, and you might go through that period. I mean, you know, for people who are listening who this might be their second time or their third time going into the process, you know, I've been there and I know what that feels like. And it's definitely not it's not great, but you know, you have to stay resilient and you have to be strong and know that if you really want this, you put in the work and it will happen. You know, you have to really, really put 110% in every time you do something with your pieces. Um, and that's all it is, you know?
It was great.
Discipline.
You definitely hit all the points, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I know people are taking notes. It was so much gold. So thank you for sharing. And this is just the beginning. We're obviously in touch, and
Yeah.
we'll see you at NYU and everything like this. So keep doing what you're doing, man.
Ah, thank you so much, Anthony. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Raji. We will talk soon.
All right, take it easy.